Welcome students. I have prepared this video lecture to explain the physiology of coagulation. In previous lecture you have learned about hemostasis and various mechanisms involved in the hemostasis. So fluidity is essential for circulation and conversion of the blood in jelly-like mass is called clot, and this process is known as coagulation. And coagulation, it provides defense against excessive bleeding from the wound. Here in this figure we can see on the right side is the formation of the temporary hemostatic plug. After the blood vessel is damaged, first it is sealed by the formation of temporary hemostatic plug. Then fibrin threads, they are formed during the process of the formation of the definitive hemostatic plug. The formation of the fibrin threads, they entrapped various contents of the blood, and gradually the fluidity it is converted into the jelly-like mass which forms clot, and gradually it stops bleeding from the damaged blood vessel. Paul Morawitz in 1905, he described the basic facts about the mechanism of blood clotting. He first described that in the process of the blood clotting, fibrinogen it is converted into the fibrin by the action of the thrombin, and thrombin is a proteolytic enzyme, and it is the key step involved in the process of the coagulation. In the process of blood coagulation, clot formation is initiated under the following situations. Whenever there is trauma to the vascular wall or the adjacent tissues, whenever trauma occurs to the blood components or the blood itself, or contact of the blood with the damaged endothelial cells or collagen. In this situation, blood coagulation takes place. Process of the coagulation, it can be divided into three main steps. The first step is the formation of prothrombin activator. Prothrombin activator, it converts prothrombin into thrombin. Prothrombin is inactive precursor of thrombin. Now thrombin is a proteolytic enzyme and it converts fibrinogen into fibrin. Clotting factors, they play important role in the process of the coagulation. Majority of the coagulation factors or the clotting factors, they are synthesized in the liver. Here we can see 13 coagulation factors which are identified which play important role in the coagulation process. Factor 1 is fibrinogen, factor 2 is prothrombin, factor 3 is tissue factor or the thromboplastin. Now tissue factor or thromboplastin is present in the phospholipid of the tissue membrane. So whenever tissues are damaged, it leads to release of factor 3 or the tissue factor. Factor 4 is calcium, factor 5 is labile factor, factor 6 is non-existent, factor 7 is stable factor or pro-converting, factor 8 is anti-hemophilic factor, factor 9 is known as Christmas factor, also known as anti-hemophilic factor B, factor 10 is Stewart power factor, factor 11 is plasma thromboplastin antecedent, also known as anti-hemophilic factor C. Factor 12 is Hagman factor, also known as glass factor or contact factor. Factor 11 and factor 12, they are activated when blood comes in the contact with the negatively charged surfaces or the exposure of the collagen. In this condition, factor 11 and factor 12, they are activated. Factor 12 is known as glass factor because when blood comes in the contact with the negatively charged surface such as glass, then factor 12 is activated. Factor 13 is known as fibrin stabilizing factor and it stabilizes fibrin thread. The first step in the process of the coagulation is the formation of prothrombin activator complex. There are different mechanisms involved in the formation of the prothrombin activator complex, and these mechanisms, they are intrinsic pathway and the extrinsic pathway. Intrinsic pathway is activated whenever there is trauma to the blood or the blood components, when blood is exposed to the collagen, exposed to the wettable surface such as glass. In these situations, intrinsic pathway it is activated. Extrinsic pathway it is activated whenever there is trauma to the blood vessels and trauma to the extravascular tissues. In all this condition, extrinsic pathway it is activated, which leads to formation of prothrombin activator complex. Extrinsic pathway. Extrinsic pathway it is activated whenever tissues are damaged, and whenever tissues are damaged it leads to release of the tissue thromboplastin. Here we can see the tissue factor or the tissue thromboplastin which is present in the cell membrane of tissues. So damage to the tissues, it releases tissue factor. Tissue factor binds with factor 7. So tissue factor and factor 7 complex, it activates factor 10, and activation of the factor 10 it forms factor 10A. Factor 10A along with the activated factor 5 and calcium, this is known as prothrombinase or the prothrombin activator complex. So remember that the various coagulation factor involved in the extrinsic pathway, they are factor 3, that is a tissue thromboplastin, factor 7 and factor 10. Intrinsic pathway of the blood coagulation, it is activated whenever there is trauma to the blood itself or exposure to the collagen. So whenever blood is exposed to the wettable surfaces such as glass, it leads to activation of the glass factor or the contact factor, that is factor 12. So factor 12 it is converted into the activated factor 12 in the presence of the high molecular weight kininogen. Factor 12 it converts factor 11 to activated factor 11. Factor 11 it converts factor 9 to the activated factor 9. So it is the sequence like that: factor 12 activates factor 11 and factor 11 it activates factor 9. Now this activated factor 9 along with the factor 8 and calcium, this complex is known as Tinase complex, and this Tinase complex it converts factor 10 into the activated factor 10. This activated factor 10 along with the activated factor 5 and calcium, it forms prothrombin activator complex in the intrinsic pathway. So various factors involved in the intrinsic pathway, they are factor 12, factor 11, factor 9, factor 8. Here in this figure we can see the intrinsic and the extrinsic system and the formation of the prothrombin activator complex. Extrinsic pathway it is activated whenever there is injury to the tissue occurs, which activates factor 3. Along with the factor 7, it activates factor 10. In the intrinsic pathway, factor 12 is activated first, which activates factor 11 and factor 9. Factor 9 along with the factor 8, it activates factor 10. In both the intrinsic as well as the extrinsic pathway, activated factor 10 along with the activated factor 5 and calcium, it forms prothrombin activator complex, and prothrombin activator complex it converts prothrombin into thrombin. Factor 8 and factor 5, they are not activated in the sequence of the coagulation cascade. They are activated by factor 10A and the thrombin, which converts inactivated factor 8 and factor 5 into the activated factor 8 and activated factor 5. Now let us summarize coagulation cascade. So coagulation occurs by the formation of prothrombin activator complex, formation of thrombin and formation of fibrin. Formation of prothrombin it takes place by the prothrombin activator complex, and prothrombin activator complex is formed by extrinsic pathway and the intrinsic pathway. So whenever tissue factors or factor 3 they are activated, they bind with factor 7 and activates factor 7. Tissue factor 7 complex activates factor 10 in the extrinsic pathway. In the intrinsic pathway, activated factor 12 activates factor 11, factor 9 and factor 8. Now factor 9, factor 8, it activates factor 10. So in both this extrinsic as well as the intrinsic pathway, activated factor 10, it binds with factor 5 and it converts prothrombin into thrombin with the help of calcium. So this is known as prothrombin activator complex. So gradually more and more amount of the thrombin they are formed, and as you all know, thrombin is a proteolytic enzyme which converts fibrinogen into fibrin. So fibrinogen, it is converted into the fibrin monomers, and fibrin monomers they can polymerize and forms fibrin meshwork, and this fibrin meshwork it is stabilized by factor 13, and all the blood components they are gradually entrapped in it, and it forms a jelly like mass which is known as clot. Role of the calcium: except for the first two reactions in the intrinsic pathway, calcium ions are required for acceleration of all the blood clotting reaction. So calcium is essential for blood coagulation, that is coagulation factor 4. But in the living organism, calcium concentration for the blood coagulation it is required in only small amount. So in the living body, the calcium ion concentration it seldom falls low enough to affect blood clotting reactions. Now citrate and oxalate they can precipitate calcium below the threshold value of the coagulation, so they are useful for the collection of the blood for the laboratory investigation. Disodium hydrogen citrate is also useful as chelating agent for the storage of the blood because it decreases the calcium below the threshold value of the coagulation. Prothrombin activator complex, it converts prothrombin into thrombin. In this way, thrombin is formed. Here we can see in the figure, on the surface of the platelet, factor 10, factor 9, factor 8 and calcium they are concentrated. This is known as Tinase complex. Tinase complex activates factor 10 and factor 10A along with the activated factor 5 and calcium. It forms prothrombin activator complex. Now this prothrombin activator complex it cleaves prothrombin into thrombin and fragment 1.2. Thrombin is a proteolytic enzyme. So from this manner, from prothrombin, thrombin as well as fragment 1.2 which is inactive peptide they are formed. Prothrombin activator complex, it converts prothrombin into thrombin. Thrombin is a multitasker proteolytic enzyme. Thrombin, it converts fibrinogen into fibrin and it activates factor 13 and it stabilizes fibrin meshwork. Thrombin also promotes more and more formation of the thrombin from the prothrombin by positive feedback cascade, and thrombin also increases platelet aggregation. So formation of the thrombin it leads to conversion of the fibrinogen into fibrin, and these fibrin monomers they polymerize into fibrin polymer or fibrin meshwork, and this fibrin meshwork is stabilized by fibrin stabilizing factor. Here we can see the structure of the fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is factor 1. Fibrinogen is plasma protein with a molecular weight 340,000 Dalton. Fibrinogen contains A alpha, B beta and the gamma chains. They are linked to the central nodule with the amino terminal, and these amino terminals they are linked together with the disulfide linkages. By the action of the thrombin, fibrinogen it is converted into the fibrin monomer and it removes NH2 terminal from the A alpha and B beta chains. So these fibrin monomers they can bind with each other and forms fibrin polymer or the fibrin meshwork. The fibrin monomers initially polymerize through weak non-covalent bonds to form fibrin strands, and it is made stronger and more resistant to fibrinolysis by factor 13, which polymerizes fibrin by catalyzing the formation of the peptide bonds between fibrin monomers. Here we can see the non-covalent bonds between the fibrin monomers, and here we can see the covalent bond formation by activated factor 13. So fibrin meshwork, it becomes more stable by the formation of the covalent bond by the activated factor 13. So now you have learned about the process of the coagulation. Process of the coagulation, it takes place in three steps: formation of prothrombin activator complex, formation of thrombin, and formation of fibrin, which ultimately leads to formation of fibrin meshwork and the coagulation. Now it is essential to understand about the in vitro versus in vivo coagulation. In vitro coagulation, or the coagulation in the laboratory, it occurs through the intrinsic pathway because of the contact with the glass. So in the laboratory, when you perform the practical of the coagulation time, at that time, because of the contact of the blood with the glass or the wettable surface, it activates factor 12. So in vitro coagulation, it mainly occurs by the intrinsic pathway. If the blood is collected with more of the tissue injury, then it can lead to coagulation in vitro by the extrinsic pathway also. But always remember that in vitro coagulation, it is mainly due to intrinsic pathway. Now inside the body, or in vivo coagulation, it occurs through both extrinsic as well as the intrinsic pathway, but mainly due to tissue injury coagulation, it is initiated mainly in vivo coagulation occurs by the extrinsic pathway. Vitamin K is also essential in the coagulation of the blood. As you all know, vitamin K is a fat soluble vitamin which is obtained from green leafy vegetables. Vitamin K is also synthesized by colonic bacteria. Now vitamin K, it acts as a cofactor and activation or the post-translational modification of factor 2, 7, 9, 10, protein C and protein S. So in the deficiency of the vitamin K, it leads to deficiency of factor 2, 7, 9, 10, which leads to prolonged clotting time. Various anticoagulant drugs, mainly the drugs of the coumarin group, which are sometimes used as anticoagulants, they act by antagonizing the action of the vitamin K. So always remember that vitamin K, it is useful for the activation or the synthesis of factor 2, 7, 9, 10, and in the deficiency of the vitamin K, coagulation is prolonged. Clot retraction. Once a clot is formed, clot retraction occurs as platelets, they are entrapped within the clot, they contract and shrink the fibrin mesh, pulling the edges of the damaged vessel close together. Calcium and the thrombin, they increases clot retraction, and during the clot retraction, fluid is squeezed from the clot. This fluid, which is essentially plasma minus fibrinogen and other clotting precursors that have been removed during the clotting process, is known as serum. So because of the clot retraction, serum, it is removed from the clot. Here in this picture we can see clot retraction. So all the platelets which are entrapped inside the clot, they shrink, and because of that, along with the platelet, it contracts all the fibrin threads, which leads to decrease in the size of the clot. And because of that, fluid from the clot, it is squeezed out, which is known as serum. Anticoagulants. Anticoagulants are substances which prevent formation of blood clot when mixed with blood in appropriate proportion. They are the anticoagulants. Anticoagulants are useful for the collection of the blood sample, for the preserving blood for the transfusion, as well as for the anticoagulant therapy. There are two types of the anticoagulants: natural anticoagulants as well as the synthetic anticoagulants. Natural anticoagulants, they are heparin, antithrombin 3, and protein C and protein S. Heparin, it is synthesized by the basophils which are present in the reticuloendothelial cells. Synthetic anticoagulants are coumarin derivatives like warfarin, dicumarol, oxalate and citrate, and sodium fluoride. Coumarin derivatives, they antagonizes action of vitamin K. Oxalate and citrate precipitate calcium below the threshold value required for the coagulation. Sodium fluoride, it inhibits glycolysis, and along with the oxalate, it is useful as synthetic anticoagulant whenever we are collecting blood sample for the measurement of blood glucose. Fibrinolytic system. When the purpose of the clot has been served and the damaged blood vessel has been sealed, then gradually the tissue repair along with the removal of the clot it takes place. And this removal of the clot takes place with the help of the fibrinolytic system. So the fibrinolysis it refers to the process that brings about the dissolution of the fibrin. Important component of the fibrinolytic system is plasmin. Plasmin is the active form. It is formed from the precursor plasminogen, and this lysis of the clot it allows slow cleaning of the tissue clots and it reopens clotted blood vessels. Purpura are a group of bleeding disorders that occurs because of the spontaneous hemorrhage beneath skin, mucous membrane and internal organs. The term purpura is derived from the purple colored petechial hemorrhages and bruises that occur in the skin. Causes of purpura: thrombocytopenic purpura and the non-thrombocytopenic purpura. Thrombocytopenic purpura occurs because of the decrease in the platelet count. Various causes of the thrombocytopenic purpura, they are idiopathic. Idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura, it most commonly occurs because of the development of the antibody against the platelets. Bone marrow depression, leukemia, toxemia and septicemia, they also decreases the platelet count. Hypersplenism, because platelets they are removed in the spleen, so whenever splenic activity is more, it results in the thrombocytopenic purpura. Non-thrombocytopenic purpura, these are the various causes of the purpura except the decrease in the platelet count. It occurs in the old age, which is known as senile purpura, because of the decrease in the matrix of the blood vessels. Decrease in the collagen content of the blood vessel results in the leakage of the blood and formation of the purpura. In the scurvy, collagen synthesis is decreased. In various infections like typhus, bacterial endocarditis and meningitis, permeability of the capillary is more. In various allergic causes, capillary walls they are damaged by the antibodies, which can lead to increase in the permeability of the vessels. Whenever capillary walls are damaged, as well as drug induced purpura by the aspirin as well as the corticosteroids, these are all the causes of the non-thrombocytopenic purpura. Hemophilia are X-linked recessive coagulation disorder caused by hereditary deficiency of either coagulation factor 8 or factor 9. Deficiency of coagulation factor 8, it leads to hemophilia A, also known as classical hemophilia, and deficiency of factor 9, it leads to hemophilia B, which is also known as Christmas disease. Hemophilia A is X-linked recessive disorder. So male, they are usually affected because they have only one X chromosome, and females they are usually carrier because they have two X chromosome. So even one X chromosome it contains abnormal gene for the synthesis of the factor 8. Another X chromosome they usually carry normal genes for the synthesis of factor 8. Carrier females they can transmit this disease to the offspring male child.